What is up, guys? Welcome back to the fourth and final installment of my Procreate 5X update walkthrough. It's the final installment because today is Sunday. Tomorrow, the 5X update hits for everybody, Monday, September 21st. So be sure to set your alarms early so you can be up to download the new update and start playing with it. I'm just kidding. It comes out tomorrow. I don't know what time, so it could come out in the morning or night. I don't know. So for this last video, we're going to talk about some of the biggest changes. I saved some of the best for last. So today, we're going to talk about gradient maps. We're going to talk about changes in the adjustments layer, like layer and pencil filters, blur brushes, and changes to the quick menu. So if you want to learn all about those new features in Procreate 5X, keep watching. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is the changes to the adjustments menu. So I've got the new 5X pulled up right now, and let's go ahead and pull in the current version of Procreate over here so you can kind of see the differences side by side. So let's pull up the adjustments on the new one and the previous one. So you'll see a lot longer here. There's some new additions. There's also, unfortunately, some subtractions in here too, which I don't know if these are going to be in the official release. Once again, this is just the beta. First thing though, you'll see right off the bat, opacity up here at the top is gone from the original current version to the new one. So it looks like the only way now that you're going to be able to adjust the opacity is by going into the layers and the blend mode here, and then doing opacity from here. I know a lot of people use that already. I've got a lot of people in the comment section of my videos that say, hey, why don't you just go up here? It's so much easier by going up here to the layers menu to adjust opacity. How come you don't know that? I do know that. I use this usually in my own work, but when I'm doing videos, I prefer to go up to the adjustments layer or menu and go to opacity here just because it's easier to see on screen for people watching at home. Clicking on here sometimes, it's kind of hard to tell what I'm actually clicking on, so that's why I use that. But going forward in my videos, I guess I won't be able to any longer. So that's one of the changes there. And you'll see a lot of stuff's been moved around. The other thing that's gone is recolor down here. It's not in here and it's not to be found anywhere else. I don't know if they're gonna add this back in. I know a lot of people don't use recolor or don't know about it. I actually just did a video a couple of months ago showing you recolor. I use it all the time to quickly color in like complicated designs. Instead of dragging and dropping the color fill over, you can just kind of touch inside areas once you have a reference layer set. So that's kind of sad to see that go, because like I said, I use that a lot. But then of course they've added different stuff in here. So you'll see the hue, saturation, color balance, and curves have been moved up here to the top. The new addition here, of course, is gradient map, which we'll get to in a second. Still got your blurs here. Noise sharpen still the same. Bloom, glitch, halftone, and chromatic aberration are all new. And then of course, liquefy and clone have been moved down to the bottom. So as you go through here, the new change is these will be able to affect through either a layer or through the pencil. So you've got two different options now. If you select layer, it's going to apply it to the entire layer that you've got selected over here. However, with pencil, you can actually select pencil and go in with a brush and with your pencil and just apply it by hand. So that's a really cool addition, which we'll get to in a second. That might be why the recolor and opacity has been removed, because all of these have that layer and pencil option on them. So that might have been a programming thing to where it needed to be this way. So all of these come up. However, I guess liquefy and clone don't have that option, so they could add recolor and opacity down underneath possibly. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about some of these new ones. Getting back to 5X here, let's talk about the one I think everybody's been waiting for, gradient map. This one's really cool. So let me show you here. And I've got this little cool looking ice cream design, a lowbrow dripping guy. And you see the layers here. I've got it set up. I've got lines. I've got shadows. I've got highlights, color flats, and then the shape and the background. These are all separate layers. So let's just select the shape to begin with. And you'll see here, once we go up and go to our gradient map, we're going to select a layer first, and it's going to pull up our gradient libraries down here. Now, as I go through and adjust these, you're going to see it's only changing the shape color because these adjustments only apply to a single layer. If you go in and try to select multiple layers at once and go in to make an adjustment, it's going to give you that kind of error thing of multiple layers selected. Do you want to open the layers or cancel? You can only select one to do any adjustments. So that creates an issue if you're going to start to do an adjustment and a filter to the entire design. You're not going to be able to have these on separate layers. So of course you could merge everything down. I personally would rather save these, so if I need to go back and make changes, I can. So what I would recommend here is just selecting all of these, making these into a new group, and then sliding this to the left and duplicating. So you've got two of these, and then flattening the top group. So now, turning off this bottom one, you can see everything's on one. So once we go back up here to our gradient map now, it's going to change everything. So it's our entire design that's being changed because everything's on one flattened layer here. So as you go through and use these filter adjustments, keep that in mind that it's going to work only on one layer and you might have to merge everything together to get the kind of look that you're going for. So let's go and talk about gradient maps and how these work. So let's start out with Mystic here, and you're going to see there's two boxes. So we have a box over here to the left. This is going to basically be our darkest colors in our design. So once again, I have this outlined in black, so you can see black's the darkest color. So it's going to be this color here. Likewise over here, far right-hand side, this kind of pink color, this is going to be the brightest value in your canvas or in your layer. And you can see here, the highlights are going to be my brightest section of my design. So therefore, all the highlights are going to be here. And then it's going to basically apply that gradient across the rest of the values of the design. So anything falling in between your darkest shadows and your brightest highlights, that mid-tone section, that's what's going to apply that gradient over. So this one is an example of a gradient map that comes preloaded in the new 5X with just two different colors, but you can actually choose some of these other ones and they're going to have more. So you'll see here, there's actually 4 different colors selected. So as it goes to that gradient and that transition across these values, it's going to apply these to those mid-tone sections, and you're going to have a little bit more control over that final result. And then if you want to make your own, you can do that as well. So by pressing the plus button here, it's going to bring up gradient map. Don't get confused when you see just black and white. You can change it, you can add colors. So by clicking on that box, it's going to bring up your color wheel, and then you can go ahead and select the colors. We'll just leave that one white. And then if you want to add in extra boxes and stops along the way, you can do that and then change these to different colors as well, to whatever you think works well for your design, and you'll have a lot of control over what the final result looks like. And then from here, clicking done, we can go ahead, click on the gradient, click and scribble here to change the name, and we'll just call this one test. Hit done, and maybe it will work. Let's see. You have to wait. There we go. Wait till it goes in. And there we go. There's our test gradient. So very cool feature. I know a lot of people have been kind of asking for this and hoping it came to Procreate, and it is one of the newest additions in 5X. So something that's, I know, going to be pretty well received by a lot of people that have been asking for it. So that's all about the gradient map. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of these: bloom, glitch, halftone, and chromatic aberration. So we'll start out with bloom. Once again, I'm going to be using this flattened image here where everything's all on one layer. So by clicking on bloom here, let's go to pencil this time so you can see what I'm talking about with pencil. With this, you're going to be able to apply the effects with the pencil rather than to the entire layer. So if we go ahead, you'll see the slider up here. When you use pencil on these adjustments, you can't adjust the slider with the pencil. You're actually going to have to adjust it with your finger because the pencil touching the screen is going to want to apply the effect. So let's go ahead and change these. And as you can see right now, this is only applying, there we go, to the areas that I'm coloring in. And it's giving this very nice bright bloom effect. Basically what this is doing, which I can explain a little bit better here if we go to the full layer. So let's go to the bloom and layer. And now we can slide this and you'll see it applies to the whole thing. So basically what this is doing, it's blowing out the highlights starting with the brightest section. So the highlights here are gonna be the first ones to turn. Now, they aren't the only ones to turn. As you adjust the slider more to the right, it's gonna go down through those midtones, then even all the way down to the shadows. Once you get to the far side, you can see now it's changing the absolute darkest areas. The blacks really aren't doing too much there just because they are so dark, but it applies it pretty much across the rest of the spectrum here. And then of course you can change your transition down here. You can change the size of the bloom. Let's pull this down a little bit up here. So the size of the bloom and the spread there, and then the amount of burn that comes with it. So I think this would be really cool in doing some fun just highlight techniques. If you're having a certain light source hitting a character in a design, this will be a fun little way to kind of make that more believable and realistic. Really quick, you're not gonna have to take a whole lot of time figuring it out. So that one is a cool addition. That is bloom. Let's go on to the next one now. The next one up is glitch. So let's do the layer again for this one. And let's start out here by sliding glitch. And you can see it's glitching out. Really cool effect. Of course, this wouldn't be something that you would use for everything. This is gonna be a case-by-case scenario, but you can adjust the amount of glitch. We're under artifact right now. You can adjust the block size, and then you can adjust the zoom. So just by playing around with those three different options, you can create a lot of different possibilities just on that one. Then once we kick over to wave, you can see the amplitude of the wave can be changed, the frequency, the zoom, and then of course the amount of the glitch up top. Go too far and it's gonna be totally unrecognizable, so definitely play around with it. Signal's the fourth one, so if we play around with this one, you can see the effects that this causes, and then diverge being the final one actually allows you to shift the reds, the greens, the blues, and then allows you to zoom the effect. So like I said, not for every single design you're going to use, but it will definitely come in handy in certain cases. So that's the glitch. Next one up, I'm going to save halftone for last. Let's go to chromatic aberration next. So let's click this one and go to the layer. And you've got two different options here, perspective, and you'll see this one's a little bit different. You've got the slider up here, and this is doing the aberration basically centered from here. This is actually draggable to where you can change the perspective of how the aberration falls. So you can move this around, and then the transition is adjustable. The fall off is adjustable, so you can have it just coming off to the ends of a design and not the entire design. A lot of different ways there. And then finally displace, which this we lose the perspective guide. And this one's a little bit harder to see. The blur here, hopefully that's coming up on camera, and then the transparency. If you've got transparency turned up all the way, not much going on, but once you start dropping that down, you can see that blur coming in. So once again, pretty cool filter and adjustments to the new Procreate 5X. Finally, halftone on this one. I think this one's my favorite one. I'm gonna be using this one quite a bit. And I'm gonna dive into this one just a little bit deeper than the previous ones. So once again, we're on the flattened image here. Let's go to halftone and show you what this does. So you've got three different options: full color, sliding to adjust here, and you can see the halftone effect coming into play. We've got screen print, and then finally newspaper, which turns everything black and white. And by sliding this from the left to the right, you can increase the effect of the halftone. So there you go. Now this, obviously, I'm not a big fan of doing an entire design like this in halftone and having everything just the same halftone, having it all being affected by that layer adjustment. So here's how I'm going to approach this, how you might want to as well. Let me go ahead and turn off that flattened image. Let's turn on the new group here. And this is all of our separated ones. So a couple things here that you could do, and everything's froze. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this off. Hold on. All right, so we're back. Didn't have to close it out or anything. Just had to kind of pull up from the bottom and it fixed itself. So like I said, all these separate here. So if I would go in and let's turn this one off. Let's just go to the color flats. So if I go to halftone here and start doing the halftone, it's only affecting the color flats. It's not affecting my highlights, my shadows, anything else. So I kind of want it to be everything inside there. So I'm going to do this a couple ways to show you guys. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And then I'm going to combine the lines. Actually, let's combine, oops. Let's go ahead and combine the lines or the shadows, the highlights, and the color flats. Okay, so now going back up to halftone, if we slide these, you'll see it's just affecting that. But now, of course, this is coming around the outside. It's getting outside of my lines. I use these really thick, heavy lines. Kind of want to keep those separate. So to do that, let's go ahead and back out. By setting this to alpha lock before we apply the halftone, it's going to keep that halftone inside those lines. So you see, no matter how big I go with this, it's not going outside. So it keeps them confined into there. Same thing with the shape on the outside. If we go ahead and use a halftone on this one, start to slide it, it's going to go outside there. We're going to lose that kind of crisp line that goes around that outer edge. So what we can do here is the same thing. We can alpha lock this one. And then we can go ahead and slide this one separately. So this is kind of fun because you can use two different halftones, two different sizes. So you're going to get a different look for the front and the back. So if you want to use it for the entire design, this is how I would probably approach it. To be honest though, the way that I personally would probably do something like this, once again, combining this group or duplicating this group, I'm going to combine everything here except for the background. And then I'm just going to use the halftone on just the background. Show you what that looks like. So this gives that halftone effect to the background. I think that really makes the whole design pop. I really like the look of that. Likewise, once again, I'm doing this with layer. If you wanted to go in and do the halftone just with your pencil, you can go ahead and do the halftone like this, and then change it around if you only want it on certain sections. The other thing here too to remember, as you're going through and adding these adjustments with the pencil or with the brush, let's go ahead and select halftone again. This is going to be affected by the actual brush you're using over here for the library. So if you want different effects here, you could use an airbrushing one and have, you know, a bigger kind of fade to it. Totally up to you how you want to use it. But like I said, one of the more exciting features of 5X that I am really digging. And speaking of brushes, another change that has happened here to the brush engine. Let's go ahead and go to, let's see, inking. I think this is a good one. We'll pull up Mercury here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull up the split screen again. And let's pull up the Mercury brush over here as well. And under wet mix, you can see this is a change here. Blur and blur jitter have been added to the brush studio as another option. So pretty excited to see what you can do with this. I've played around with it a little bit and haven't had a lot of success in making anything that's taking advantage of this yet. So definitely get in there, kind of toy around with it when this goes live. I'll keep on at it and see if I can come up with some different stuff. But like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of luck with this yet, so I'm not sure if this is going to be a big game changer or not, but I'll let you know more as I have more time to play around with it. And then finally, last but not least, change to the quick menu. If you guys watch my videos, I don't use quick menu in my videos. Just once again, like I said, with the opacity thing up here, it's hard for people to tell exactly what I'm doing if they're not familiar with Procreate. So I've got quick menu set up for 3 fingers. And let's pull back up the current version here so you can see the differences. So if we pull up quick menu in the previous version, 6 options here, 6 options on the new one. However, the difference here you can see comes in the middle. So pulling this up again, right here in the center, got quick menu. So hitting this, you actually have the option to make a ton of different quick menus. So with this, you can have quick menu 1 set as maybe your main go-to, but if you're doing a certain design that takes a lot of going back and forth as a process between commonly used quick things, you could set up that on quick menu 2. And then if you need to do another process, which requires other things, you could set that up as quick menu 3. And like I said in the previous videos, a lot of these updates to Procreate 5X, it's really just kind of streamlining your work process, your workflow. And I do like that. I think stuff like this, adding this in, instead of having, shortcuts that you can do with a keyboard, stuff like this can really kind of free up some time and definitely speed up that overall work process. So that is it for my initially 7-day, but now 4-day kind of overview of Procreate 5X. Like I said, it launches tomorrow, Monday, September 21st. So definitely look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. So if you want to show off your work, hop on over to Facebook. I've got a group for artists over there. It's called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists. It's a place where you can share your work, give feedback, get feedback, and want you guys to be a part of it. Show off some of this 5X stuff that you're using once it goes live. I'll link that in the description below. Also, if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. I do a lot of Procreate and digital stuff on my channel. So if you are new, number one, thanks for joining me on this video, but definitely want you guys to stick around after and see some more stuff. As for me, I can be found online at bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. And also, I've got a podcast called Make Money with Your Art for artists who are looking to maybe turn your artistic passion into either a side hustle to bring in just a little bit of extra money or maybe possibly a full-time career. I cover a lot of different topics there, how to approach turning your art into a business. That can be found wherever you listen to podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, the list goes on and on. Definitely check that out. So that's it for me. And until next time, keep creating.